as I tripled, it was like God served Vince up to me on a platter. He just, like, time slowed down and he hung up the top of the berm for a second. I just saw my opportunity and did it for the world. Yeah, I just saw the chance there and just thought I'd go for it.
There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always at my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, 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 ride. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Welcome back, Moto fans. Thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to our partners who make this all possible. Death Grip Products, SPMX Suspension and Engine Performance, Shred Bike Care, Graphics by Aqua, Works Racing, and Wolf Building Compliance. Now, we've had a little bit of a break from recording as there's been so much going on over the last 4 weeks in the moto world. It has been crazy. Of course, the Australian Supercross Championship and WSX are now over, and having attended them all as a, quote, professional media guy for the first time, I am still buzzing at what an experience it was. When you're in amongst it, there is hardly a moment's rest, but I have to say I still enjoyed it immensely, and I'm already looking forward to the 2024 Pro MX. With regard to the Aussie Supercross, I know there were some issues with the broadcast, and there's definitely a few things that can be improved upon next year. But all things considered, I am pretty sure that many of the riders, and definitely a lot of the fans that got off the couch and turned up to watch live, will consider this to have been one of the best Supercross seasons we've had in Australia for a very long time. There are a lot of positive changes made this year in an effort to improve the series, and I think we've had a taste of the real potential of Supercross and where it can go as a sport here in Australia. And if there are any naysayers out there about how successful this year's Aussie Supercross season was, the numbers support my assertion. We had a full gates at every class. At the stadiums, there were plenty of bums on seats. TV viewership was apparently well up from last year. And on the ground, the tracks produced good and at times great racing. Outside of the events themselves, I know quite a number of new tracks were being built for riders to train on as well, which definitely bodes well for the next generation of Supercross superstars. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that there isn't plenty of room for improvement moving forward, but as a moto fan, I think what we witnessed this year makes me, at least, pretty excited to see where things will go. A little bit closer to home, we've now launched the Mental for Moto Rider Support Program for 2024, which I have to say is a bit of a dream come true for me. A month or so, I put the call out for applications in the hope of getting 12 privateer riders who might be interested. In the end, I selected 16 riders from the senior classes, as well as 4 85cc kids, and I can't wait to get to work with these legends next year. I'd like to extend my sincerest thanks to everyone that applied, and I must say I really, really struggled not being able to take everyone on. For any listeners that don't follow the sport that closely, it'll probably come as a bit of a shock to realise that the majority of professional motocross riders that you see line up at a Pro MX National actually race the series at a considerable financial cost to themselves. So one of my goals with the Rider Support Program was to try raise money to help a bunch of privateer riders get to the races next year. To kick things off, I'm in the final stages of putting together a motocross and supercross calendar for 2024. They've been on sale on the Mental for Moto website for just over a week, and we've already raised $1,500, which is absolutely awesome. We've also attracted some amazing sponsors to cover the printing costs, which means that we can put the absolute maximum back towards helping the riders. So thanks to everyone that's bought a calendar and everyone that's jumped on as a sponsor. If you haven't done so already, log on to the website and order yourself a calendar today. The first batch will be shipping out around the 15th of December, I think it is. So they should get to you with plenty of time to stick one or two under the Christmas tree. All right, let's get on to our first guest for this episode. First cab off the rank, I have Mick Sinclair on the line. If you're new to the podcast, Mick is the general manager of AME, who is the promoter of the Aussie Supercross Series. Mick only joined the team at AME earlier this year, so I wanted to check in with him to see how he thought it went from his perspective and hopefully find out a little bit more about what AME have in store for us next year. Mick Sinclair, welcome back to the podcast, mate. Well, first of all, congratulations. This was your first Supercross Series with you in the hot seat as general manager of AME, and they were certainly three massive events respectively. To start with, just give me your thoughts on the championship and how it went from your perspective as the promoter.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. It's good to be back on Mental for Moto. And yeah, thank you for joining us at each round. First off, it was great to have you there, and I think you did a great job covering the series for us. From our side, I mean, yeah, I know you say it was, I'll start off by saying it was me in the hot seat, but it definitely wasn't all just me. We've got a really great team at AME, myself and the girls, Callie, Ash, Alice, Jess, Riley, plus Ethan, too. So we've got a great team in there, and everyone played a huge part in delivering what we delivered this year. But, from a team point of view, we're thrilled on how it went. I don't think anything's ever 100%. We definitely had challenges along the way, but I think the way we handled those challenges and delivered a good outcome for everyone was really good, Again, didn't really know what to expect going into this. Like you said, it was my first one. However, we made some big claims based on feedback towards the Australian Supercross Championship and the feeling towards AME in general after last year's championship. So, like I said to you in the first podcast I did with you, when I came on board, there was I sensed a bit of negativity around both the championship and AME, and I really feel, and I know that the girls feel too, that we've turned that around.
Yep.
Completely, and the positivity around Australian Supercross now and towards AME is really good. Like the feedback we're getting after the 3 rounds is great, and it's definitely a nice feeling to deliver on everything we said we were going to. And because of that, the series went, really well, in my opinion.
Yep. You've referred to your team before as small but mighty, and having experienced that and witnessed that on the ground, I can definitely agree. Like you guys are running around and putting in the work, at every event, before every event, after every event. So that was really impressive to see. To break it down a little bit more across the series, what worked well, what didn't, and what would you be looking to do the same or differently next year?
What worked well? I mean, pretty much all of it worked well. I think the communication probably starts there, between us as a team and the riders and the teams, and also, to you guys, the media too. We know that the media didn't have a great experience with the Supercross last year, and that mainly came down to the different promoters and that the process was different every round. So now that we've got hold of every round, at least the process was the same for each of the 3 rounds, and I think that's been really good. That's we've had good feedback on that. What else went well? I mean, pretty much, Adelaide went well. Yeah, we copped some negative feedback about the track, obviously, and that venue being so small, but I enjoyed it. I think everyone who was there enjoyed it. I agree with some of the feedback about the broadcast. Yeah, that track didn't look great on broadcast. I wouldn't say it was bad either, but it wasn't the best. So, the dirt in Adelaide was quite soft. It broke down a lot during practice, but it held up better during the race, which created, pretty good racing. It didn't break down. It would have been really one-lined and quite boring, I think. So that was, a blessing in disguise. I think the overall experience in Adelaide was great, where the pit party was, the pits were inside there, all the trucks down the side. Like, I just think that venue works really well for that. So, I'm pretty sure we'll be going back to Adelaide next year to the entertainment centre again, and we'll take what we learnt this year to make most of that floor space and to create a better track. We've got plenty of riders and other people wanting to give us their opinion, and we'll hear it all.
Yep.
We could start outside like what they did. They didn't start outside in Abu Dhabi, but they went outside.
Yep.
So we might do the same. Instead of running a big triple and the big finish jump, maybe we just run one of them. Probably have the finish jump, and instead of the triple, we run an extra lane.
Yes, yeah.
Just to create different options. Maybe some passing or whatever. So there's the things we can look at doing. Excuse me. Newcastle was my favourite round. Of the three, that just seemed to go like clockwork for us. I mean, wasn't perfect because that track went rock hard and quite slippery, and that really came down to it rained on Wednesday. When I say it rained, it was torrential, like it absolutely pissed down.
I think that was just the dirt, though. It was kind of like what we get out in Gippsland.
Yes and no, but I think because it was 35 degrees for 3 days straight, it just got baked.
Yeah.
Danny Ham sourced that dirt for us. It was different dirt to what we used last year, and it wasn't close. It come from 45 minutes ago, and it was supposed to be the bee's knees. That's why we did it. Hammy, come as a recommendation from Hammy, and it was nice and black, and it was, when it was stockpiled in the car park,
it was good
because it's a logistical nightmare. Newcastle too. You got to get all the dirt, dump it in the car park, and then take it in. So it's a bit of a nightmare, but that's just what you got to do. But yeah, the dirt looked really good out in the car park, and we were lucky that we got it all in before the rain come down. And then it was wet to work with. The boys did the best job they could with that track, and then it got baked. Whatever, it is what it is. We couldn't really control that. I think the experiences that the fans had at that one was great. It really felt like an American Supercross to me.
Yes.
Watching that show opener come to life with the voiceover, that was a massive thrill for me. I wrote that and got the voiceovers done, and that was, really cool to see. And then to hear the feedback from Max Anstey saying, man, this feels like we're in America.
Yep.
Just before I send him out for the show opener, was really cool. So Newcastle was great. The broadcast looked good. Entries were strong. We had just under 17,000 people there again, which is huge.
Yeah.
So
great atmosphere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, epic. And then Melbourne was Melbourne. Marvel Stadium's a great stadium for Supercross. We had 10,000-ish there, or just over 10,000 on Friday night, but it probably didn't look like it because it holds 55,000. So. Even on Saturday night for World Supercross, there was almost 30,000, and it was over half full. And it had a really good vibe to Saturday night, but Friday night, in my opinion, lacked a little bit of vibe just because of the empty seats. But still, over a 2-night event and 10,000 people for Australian Supercross on a Friday night in Melbourne is still pretty good going. So, overall, mate, pretty long answer to your question there, but. We're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I made some notes about each round, and you pretty much covered the same sort of points that I came up with as well, which is cool. And I think, like, back to your point about Melbourne with the spectator numbers on the Friday night, I think that's just the price that you pay going back to back with WSX. If WSX wasn't there, I think you would have had a really good turnout for the Aussie Supercross. It's just 2 nights of Supercrosses.
100%. But also in saying that, if we didn't have World Supercross there's no way we'd be in Marvel Stadium.
Yes, that's a fair point.
We have to ride that wave, and we're very thankful that we can. Bailey and the FX Global team do a killer job with their events, and it's great to be able to jump on the back of that and put Australian Supercross on that world scale, because a lot of people are watching both nights internationally, and it's great for us. It's great for the riders. It's good for everyone in our industry that we can jump on the back of that event.
Going back to Adelaide, it was kind of disappointing to see some of the feedback online after that based on the broadcast, because at the venue, I don't think there was a spectator there that walked out of there disappointed. The atmosphere was awesome. It was intimate. The racing was good, probably not great, but but really, really good. And that's probably just because of the points you already made about the layout, which with a little bit of tweaking, I think it could be great, even in such a small venue. I think the dirt there was as good as we've seen at any round of Aussie Supercross. Like you mentioned that it broke down, but I think that's what kind of made the racing, and just seeing those ruts in the up ramps, and it made a small, simple track a lot more technical than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, I'd love to see, as a fan, I'd love to see racing and go there again next year. And I reckon, if you guys would be interested, it'd be the best venue to have a retro round. Like it's so Supercross Mastersy. It's got that feel. Yeah, plant that.
Yeah,
That seed.
What's interesting. We did discuss it, right? And we just thought, our first year of doing it, the series, we didn't want to put any pressure.
Yep.
Like these events are hard enough and costly enough to go to for, the factory teams and privateers. We didn't want to put that extra pressure on guys having to go and get new graphics and new gear done and all this kind of shit, for the sake of a theme. But I mean, next year, possibly, like we even tried to get postie bikes from Honda to run a postie bike race like they always used to at the Supercross Masters.
Yeah.
And we thought about doing a whole theme for the crowd, come in your 80s, 90s, moto, retro fan wear or your gear or whatever. So it was definitely did get thrown around, but we just didn't want to add another element into the mix that we had to worry about year one. And not even us, but for everyone else too. But I like what you're saying, and it's definitely on the cards. And perhaps now we've got a year under our belt, we probably could do something like that for next year.
Yeah, awesome. And like moving on to Newcastle, like if I worked for AME, you sort of said it was your favourite round. I'd be trying to lock that venue into the calendar as an ongoing staple of the series. The track size, the layout, it was technical. It made for great racing. Overlook the dirt this year. Like you said, it was based on the conditions leading up to the event. But the town, I've never been there before, but the town and the venue were like perfect. And that was evident by the number of people that showed up, and the setup means you don't just have a great stadium for racing, but it works for the pit party, which was absolutely mega and allows you to create an amazing fan experience up there as well. Yeah, It was so good going around and speaking to the riders, and I think they got a massive buzz out of that as well.
Yeah, look, you might be disappointed there, mate, when we start talking about 24 or when we roll that out, until you hear the actual plan. So we've been Newcastle twice now.
Yep.
We have a really good relationship with Destination New South Wales, and there might be some other stadiums where they may want us to
use.
Go and and share Supercross around different parts of New South Wales. So look, time will tell. We're not in a position to
announce
the calendar yet, which is a bit of a bummer, because I said that there was one thing I wanted to do was have the 24 calendar out in Adelaide, and then it was going to be Newcastle. But there's things that have held that off, and that's mainly to do with going back to Brizzy and locking a venue up there away. So, people have been screaming to go back to Brisbane, and, we're 98% there.
Yep. Can you confirm how many rounds there'll be next year?
4 or 5.
4 or 5, yep.
No. At least 4. I mean, at least 4.
Yep. But you're aiming for 5 is sort of what I'm picking up.
Well, it depends. Yeah, kind of. I mean, one would have to be a doubleheader. So It's definitely going to be 4 venues, potentially a doubleheader at one. But, let's just leave it at that. And talking to our team yesterday, we're aiming to have the calendar out mid-January. There's probably no point going out with it now.
Yeah.
Coming into Christmas, and we might ride the wave of, A2 or something and roll it out that week.
Yeah, and assuming the timeline is going to be towards the end of next year, there's certainly no urgency to announcing that before you have to.
No, but it's, we want to get it out early so people can start planning their holidays and teams can start planning their travel and bits and pieces. If we go out January this year, it's still going to be 3 months earlier than what we did this year.
Yes, yeah.
That makes sense. If we go out January next year, yeah.
Yep.
So, we're still well ahead of where we were this year, so we're in a pretty good spot.
Cool. The last time you came on the show, we sort of spoke a bit about the dynamic of racing in Australia and the ability of Australian riders to prepare for Supercross and their Supercross experience. And so when you came on, it was in the lead up to round one, and we discussed the suggestion of dumbing down the tracks a little bit for the Aussie series. I wanted to revisit that and see what your thoughts were now that the series is over and we've seen how it's all played out and we've seen how the 85 Cup's played out. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
We definitely didn't dumb the tracks down to suit 85. In saying that, I think, Chad had something to say about the Adelaide track. He wanted to make the triple smaller and the finish jump a bit smaller. And that was fine, but I also argued that we still had a 450 and 250 Supercross Championship to run. So we made the triple a little bit bigger. I mean, there was a bunch of 80s that jumped it anyway. We made that finish jump a bit more poppier, and we just couldn't have a track just to suit the 85 kids. The whole point of 85 kids riding Supercross now is so they can learn to ride Supercross, not so they can come and just blast every obstacle on the track and make it boring for the bigger bikes. So, yeah, we didn't really dumb the tracks down at all. I don't think Newcastle was dumbed down. It was quite challenging, actually, those big, long rhythms with how skatey it was. And then Melbourne's track was epic. So, we didn't have a lot of say in the Melbourne layout. But Adelaide and Newcastle, I don't think we dumbed them down at all. I think they were still pretty tough.
Yeah, no, the conversation was about dumbing them down to suit, I guess, the ability of Australian riders. Not that you did dumb them down. It was the discussion you said that that the riders were opposed to it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I wasn't inferring that they had been dumbed down. Speaking to the riders and interviewing the riders afterwards, both after Newcastle and Melbourne, they both described the tracks as being very, very similar to the US. I guess the only difference in Newcastle was the dirt. Like Max said, it's exactly like a US Supercross layout, and the jumps are the same, the technicality's the same, the length was the same. He said the only difference is they don't get dirt that's quite as hard pack over there. And I think Melbourne, from my point of view anyway, I reckon that's probably the best Supercross track we've ever seen in an Australian series ever.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, the dirt was good, the layout was good. I guess the only things, talking to some of the riders in terms of like dumbing down the tracks, there was quite a few that probably weren't stoked on the whoop section, saying that was probably uber technical. It was great for guys that were at the pointy end of the sport and have been racing in the US, but for a lot of the Australian guys, I think that posed a lot of challenges.
Yeah, there was some talk about that, wasn't there, in Newcastle, and there was some feedback that they didn't get touched from the first lap of practice right till the very end. And I remember having a conversation, and I can't remember what it actually was, but I spoke to Kev about it, and he didn't agree with them, or didn't agree with the general feedback. But, it's still feedback we'll take on board. I think what we experienced in Newcastle was, straight after practice, we sent out, probably 300 people for a corporate track walk that we sold. And that really limited the track work time. So you couldn't really do track work when we had 300 people on the track. And looking back now, and something that we spoke to with our team, is we've got to be really mindful of those experiences we sell, and make sure it doesn't impede on that important track work time. So that's feedback and we've taken on board, and we'll make sure that when we're working around scheduling and experiences that they don't clash again.
Yeah. I guess as far as negative feedback goes, the only negative feedback that I've really heard about the series as a whole, and I don't know how much you're involved with it, was about the broadcast. Yeah, have you heard much about that? And I actually haven't had a chance, definitely. I'll be honest. I haven't watched any because I've been at them all. And I still do want to go back and watch them to see what they look like on TV. But what's your sort of interpretation of the feedback you've received? And is it something that you actually have the power to improve moving forward?
Definitely. I got home on the Sunday of straight after the race, and that was the first thing I did when I got home was watch the broadcast. I think I would have had enough of it, but I was intrigued. You see some of the feedback from people watching it live, and then you see it online, and when I get home I want to see what they're talking about. So I did. Straight after Adelaide I got home, watched the broadcast. I think that the broadcast itself was good.
Yep.
The commentary was good. Camera angles were good, but it just made the track look a little small and basic. But that wasn't the broadcast fault, you know what I mean? So,
Yes, yeah.
you know, the track just looked really small on the broadcast. But in terms of the production, the broadcast was good. Newcastle was a little bit disappointing for us, where there was a time delay. So, you know, the commentators were talking and you get it like, you know, 3-second delay on the audio. And it just looked really average.
Yep.
Looked cheap. It looked average. And I promise you, they're not cheap, you know. It's not cheap to run a broadcast. You know, it's up to $50,000 plus per event to get it on TV.
Yeah.
So that was really disappointing, and we caught up with our broadcast partner and 7 Plus on that, and they were going to work it out. And then Melbourne was also similar. I think it missed a fair bit of audio at the start. So we actually had a discussion today, Callie and I, just going to look at some options for next year and try and get to the bottom of that. But I think some of the feedback on that was definitely valid.
Yep.
And we'll take it on board and try and get to the bottom of it, because I can't disagree with them.
I'm still looking forward to watching it, irrespective of the pros and cons that might have happened. But I'd love to just revisit all the racing from a different perspective again anyway.
Yeah.
I won't waste too much of your time anymore, but I've got just one
Not
question.
wasting my time at all, mate.
I love chatting to you. So, I could definitely keep this going, so be careful what you say.
I'm in no hurry.
At the end of the day, like, AME is a business, and realistically for any enterprise to attract ongoing investment, needs to be financially viable. When it comes to the bottom line, was it as successful from a business perspective?
Yeah, it was. Yep. You know, you don't go into these events to lose money. Adelaide, you know, we had 6,000 there. That stadium holds about 7.5. So that was, you know, kind of just on. But Newcastle was good. So yeah, it's definitely worth all our time and effort. And for sure. And we've all still got jobs. The business is still around, so everything's positive going into next year. But I mean, in terms of the support we get some help from the government with government funding, like they all do for all big major events, and we have some good partners with Fox and MX Store and Fantic and Pit Viper and Honda and Yamaha. I mean, it'd be great to have every manufacturer on board, but you know, KTM said no, Kawasaki said no, Suzuki said no to sponsorship, and they support their series by getting their teams there. I'm like, okay, great. But, you know, we get some great support from, you know, Yamaha and Honda. They're our partners. So, you know, we're going into reporting mode at the moment, and then we'll go into, you know, into sponsorship mode again for 24. So, hey, if you're listening out there and you've got a business that you need to get some new eyeballs in front of, hit me up.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what the sort of visibility was, or the numbers were for the viewership on TV?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got all that data there. It was really impressive. So, the top of my head, Adelaide last year had around 9,000 stream starts, and Adelaide this year was well over 20,000.
Awesome.
High 20s.
Yep.
Adelaide was the most viewed at the moment. Newcastle was also 20s. Melbourne was 20s as well. So look, compared to last year, the viewership was really strong.
Unreal. And as far as, you know, the future goes, are you looking to expand to other states around Australia?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Australian Supercross is probably good for 5 to 6 rounds per year. Probably 5 is probably where it's at, and that's the feedback we're getting. You know, Justin Brayton thinks Australian Supercross is good for 5 rounds, and the teams talk, you know, they don't want a 10-round series. I mean, I'm sure we'd all love to do it, but it's not possible here. So I think 5 rounds is where it's at, 5 to 6, and you do go to 6, and we're going to have to look at other places. So yeah, it's we're constantly looking at other venues, places, states, cities, whatever.
And as far as the actual events were ran, what sort of feedback did you get from the riders as far as like accessibility, travel, the ability to set up, and how it was from their experience, apart from the racing?
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been really nice to hear people talk so positive around Australian Supercross and AME, because I just think we delivered on those things. Again, the communication, the access we gave them, or the access we gave fans to them, I probably should say.
Yep.
We delivered on everything we said with the privateer incentive program. Yeah, we delivered on rolling out that new 85, the CR2285 Cup. That went great. So, yeah, I mean, I think we delivered everything we said we would, and the feedback from the riders in particular has been great.
Yeah, with the CR2285 Cup, I was really pleasantly surprised with how that actually played out. I'll admit I was probably a little bit skeptical in the lead up.
Yeah, why is that? What part?
Getting 85cc bikes onto a full-size, full-scale Supercross track, I think was going to be a massive step for a lot of these kids, and I sort of was worried that it was going to end up in a bit of chaos and a lot of injuries, and I have to admit I was blown away at how good these 85 kids are at getting around a Supercross track.
To be honest.
Man,
that top 10 were just unbelievable. At every round we had over 30 entries.
Yep.
And I was impressed. Adelaide, when I first saw them, kids coming around hitting that triple. And admittedly, like I said, I'd been out of the game for a little while, so I didn't know who any of these kids were. I'd never heard of Jack Nunn or Lockie Allen or Cooper Ford. Obviously, I knew Declan Smart because I looked after him when I was at PS. And,
yes, yeah.
I was expecting perhaps Levi Townley and Tate Reid and those guys to come and blow the doors off these kids. But, man, DJ as well, there was just some super talented, fast kids, and just, not even fast, just skillful.
Oh, well, they were doing rhythms that some of the guys in the SX2 class weren't doing. So
yeah, it was so cool to watch and come out. And what even more impressive is the way they could speak. When we put them in front of a camera for interviews on BNR or social or whatever, they look at you when they're talking to you. They're not looking down at the ground, like they're full of confidence. And yeah, it was just so great to see. And I'm just rapt that we could give these kids a platform, because, man, imagine if we didn't. These kids would still be unheard of, and now they're known in this industry, and so they should be, because they're really bloody good.
Yeah, and like I said, I was a doubter, and I couldn't have turned around my opinion anymore. I think it was a massive success. I think it's planted the seed for many, many successful future years of Supercross in Australia, hopefully, because it's going to develop these riders, and it's also going to lift the game across the board, I think. And 5 years down the track, when these kids start becoming seniors and probably exploring the world and heading, some of them no doubt will head to the US. I think some of them are already heading to the US next year for some development programs and wherever else they go. I think, it's going to plant the seed for Australia to really make its mark on the motocross and supercross scene internationally.
I hope so. I mean, I can't wait to see who comes out from overseas for this, now they've seen what it actually is.
Yeah, yep, very true.
Because, 85 racing, live TV, on full-size tracks at every round, it's very cool, and we're the only country or series in the world who's doing it alongside the championship classes. So, I think it's going to attract some really quick kids from around the world. And we're going to, this year it wasn't a championship, it was still a series or a cup.
Yep.
But we're going to really push hard with MA to get the 85 class and the SX3 to be an Australian championship for the medal, just like SX1 and SX2, because I really think it deserves it.
I totally agree. All right, well, I think I've probably taken up enough of your time. I've got to go pick up my kids from school as well, but it's been awesome to be able to get you on the phone for an interview, and definitely look forward to doing it again. And once the news breaks as to what the future is going to hold for the Australian Supercross series next year, I'll definitely have to get you back on.
I'd love to, because we've got some really cool things. Hopefully we're going to announce for next year. I really can't talk about it now because we've just started talking about the next, only the last 2 days. But think additional class. So it's super exciting. I think the future's bright. We're in really good hands, and we've got a lot of momentum. So I'm looking forward to taking this thing into 24 and making it even better than what it was this year.
No, unreal, mate. Well, I look forward to it, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks very much, Pete.
A massive thanks to Mick for coming on the show again. Love getting him on, and we'll try to get him back as soon as he's ready to drop more news about the 2024 Aussie Supercross Championship. Before we get on to our next guest, and trust me, that's one you don't want to miss, we're going to take a quick break to hear a few words on behalf of our sponsors, so don't go anywhere. All right, we hope you're enjoying the show. It's time to take a quick break to say a few words on behalf of our awesome sponsors. So keep your ear holes open and your finger away from that fast forward button. And most importantly, support the sponsors that support Mental for Moto. Death Grip Products. Nearly all motocross riders experience arm pump, some of us more than others. As well as exercise and a good diet, one of the things that's really helped me is wearing the right gloves. The Death Grip Reaper glove is a lightweight glove that is designed to maximize comfort and feel, and the non-slip logo on the palm and fingertips reduces the effort that it takes to stay connected to the controls. Death Grip Products is currently offering a whopping 35% off the Reaper glove for Mental for Moto listeners. To take advantage of this offer, click on the link below and use the promo code MENTAL23, and you can conquer your arm pump demons as well. Works Racing Goggles. It's been a horrible wet winter so far, but with the Works Racing roll-off system, you can ensure that you ride with clear vision every time you get on the track, regardless of how muddy it gets. A small locally owned business, Works Racing Goggles offer premium performance at a fraction of the price of some of the big name brands. To order yourself a pair of Works Racing Goggles today, simply follow the link below. Wolf Building Compliance and Fire Protection. Having a quality fire extinguisher in your trailer and workshop is one good way to make sure that your valuable dirt bikes don't accidentally go up in flames. Servicing the Greater Melbourne area, Wolf can help you out with all your fire protection needs. Visit wolfbc.net or click on the link below and use the contact form, and the guys at Wolf will be sure to look after you. SPMX Engine and Suspension Performance. There's one thing that the bikes ridden by the fastest riders in the world have in common. And it isn't always that they have the most horsepower, fanciest engine mods, or shiniest aftermarket exhaust systems. It's good suspension. Contrary to popular belief though, having your suspension working correctly for your weight, speed, and preferred style of riding is no longer a luxury that is accessible only to the pros. As an average rider myself, I can attest what a difference getting your suspension tuned and serviced makes. So if you want to go faster, ride safer, and simply enjoy your riding more, book in with Steve at SPMX to get your suspension tuned and serviced. You'll be amazed just at what a difference it makes. Graphics by Aqua. If you want a lit kit, Graphics by Aqua have got you covered. Neon colours, metal flaking, holographics. Graphics by Aqua are taking jersey prints, graphics kits, and graphic design to the next level. Best of all, Graphics by Aqua is locally based and exclusively use premium quality local suppliers for their full range of products and services. They even do custom logo designs and work uniforms. To see some of their awesome work, check out the Graphics by Aqua Instagram page and give them a follow while you're there, or simply follow the link below to visit their website. Shred Bike Care. The concept behind Shred Bike Care is simple. A clean bike is a fast bike. And with a complete range of products, from bike wash and degreaser to chain lube and surface treatments, Shred can have your bike looking clean and shiny every time you hit the track. Australian owned and locally produced, the range of Shred products are fast acting, safe on all bike parts, biodegradable, and unlike most other generic cleaning products on the market, are entirely designed by bikers for bikers. To check out the full range on offer at Shred Bike Care, visit their website by clicking on the link below. Now let's get back to this episode. I am stoked to introduce my next guest on the line, Dylan Wills. He is probably the most celebrated rider in Australia at the moment. And no, he didn't win a championship. He just stuck it to one of the most disliked motocross riders in the world, a guy that has been embroiled in controversy for almost the entirety of his racing career, Vince Friese. Racing as a wildcard in the WSX class of the World Supercross Championship at Marvel Stadium just over a week ago, With a single move, Dylan Wills set the crowd on fire and elevated himself to legend status. Welcome to the podcast, Dylan. It's great to have you on.
Thanks heaps, mate. I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
This episode's all about the 2023 Aussie Supercross season, and along with the respective champions, you're probably the most talked about rider right now. Did your phone explode on Saturday night?
Yeah, it did, man. It was actually really hard to concentrate because I was in between rides and had all of my mates and stuff messaging me saying it was the sickest thing they've ever seen. So it was hard to concentrate. But to be honest with you, man, it was like that hit was almost a blessing in disguise. I was so tired after racing, Friday night Aussie Supercross that I went into practice and qualifying for the world stuff, and I was riding the bike basically asleep, man. I was so tired, but no, it was cool. It was a really cool opportunity, and in hindsight, almost wish I didn't do it, but it was also, like everyone has their opinion on Vince. I don't really need to speak on that much, but I got the opportunity and tried to give him a hit. I thought it was pretty funny.
People weren't really pulling their punches even during the press conference after the race, so you won't be saying anything new. You're already pretty popular around Australia, but I think the cheer that went up on Saturday night could be heard around the world. So let's talk about that move a little bit. When you were coming through the rhythm lane towards the second bowl turn there, did you know that was Vince ahead of you, and were you already lining him up at that point?
Man, to be honest with you, I didn't. I was side by side with Savachi. So it was Savachi, me, Brayton. So you would think out of the three of us, I'd probably be the most prone to making a mistake there. And it just so happened that they made little mistakes and I didn't. And I tripled out of that rhythm. And as I tripled, it was like God served Vince up to me on a platter. Time slowed down, and he hung up the top of the berm for a second. I just saw my opportunity and
you took it.
Yeah, I did it for the world. Yeah, I just saw the chance there and just thought I'd go for it. So no, I wasn't lined up. It was just how the cards fell, and it was right there.
Dino had said previously that he's actually really hard to mess with, and that he feels really solid when you hit him. Was that your impression as well?
Dude, I honestly I've said this to a few people now. That is not my riding style at all.
Yep.
I obviously make block passes and things like that, but I gave him a pretty solid hit. And to be honest with you, like you said, that crowd reaction was so loud.
Yeah.
That I went through the rhythm, and I legit thought I put him on the deck. Hey,
yep.
I thought that was enough because I hit him pretty hard, and the crowd went crazy. And I thought he was on the ground, eh?
Yeah. Well, he's a bit like Barsha in that sense. I think when you do it, you've got to seal the deal. Otherwise, he's going to come back after you.
For sure. And then same thing, man. I spoke to Dino after it, and Dino was like, man, I don't know what it is. It's like you can't put him on the ground. And same with other people. Man, I was talking to Josh Hill after it, and he said the same thing. He messaged me and said it's like he's invincible.
Yeah.
So, no, it was good, man. I had a good reaction from a lot of the people. It was actually quite not so much a surprise, but just some of the people that were so pumped about it, I was surprised. When I come back down into the riders area, I got a big high five and a hug from Michael Lessie, which I met him when I was a kid. He wouldn't remember me from back then.
Yep.
And he come up to me like we were best mates, and he was like, that was the best. That was so good. And I said to him, aren't you his teammate? I know the answer. It was more of a rhetorical question, but I was a bit confused. I was like, aren't you his teammate? Aren't you guys friends? And he's like, yeah, we're friends, but he deserves it. And he's like, I'm just impressed that you're a wild card in second corner into a race, your first ever race with him, and you had to go. And it was really surprising, man. Obviously I ended up, with the shit end of the stick, but so many people just loved the fact that I went for it. So, yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
Well, he always seems to dodge a bullet, and it's like his ass always ends up in the cream, because whenever he comes together with someone, it's usually the other person that comes off worse.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I hit that triple, and like I said, I thought he was on the deck. So at that point, with the crowd going wild, I was feeling a little bit frisky. I threw a scrub over the triple and was trying to get on my way. And as I come into that berm, I saw a red fender, and the whole situation changed. So I shit my pants a bit, and he just gave me a little nudge right as I sat up, and it obviously looked a lot worse than what it was. He really didn't. He barely hit me. He just gave me a little nudge with the front wheel, and I reacted at the same time, and it was enough for me to kind of go over the berm, which was not even the situation. I just got that tough block stuck between my front wheel and my like kind of where my header pipe is and the frame there, and it just wedged my wheel sideways. I couldn't straighten, and then as I went over the berm, it just knifed, and that was it. So that was all she wrote. But it was just such a weird situation to be in, because like I even picked my bike up off the ground and I could hear the crowd, and as I got back on, I just couldn't help it. I started laughing, like it was just such a weird scenario. Like usually I'd be so red hot in that situation, but I wasn't. It was just different.
I have to admit, like I was in that corner. I got a photo of it as you were coming up that lane towards Vince, and it fully looked. I was probably 3 meters, 4 meters further up from the corner, and as soon as I saw you jump that triple, I sort of ran like 3 or 4 steps towards that corner, because like you said, you hadn't planned it, but it looked like it was coming. Like it was like, this is it. This is going to be the moment. And when he didn't go down, I think everyone sort of sat on the edge of their seat for the next 30
probably.
seconds.
Oh man, if I hadn't known he didn't go down, I probably would have jumped that triple and just hit the anchors and let him go through, because I know what's coming. But like you said, just crazy situation, and cards didn't fall my way, but still at this stage, like with the reaction and you know how it went, I wouldn't change it, man. It was cool. It was a really cool experience, and you know, not many people are really that fond of him, so getting in and having a crack, I think, earned the respect of a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it definitely created some talking points. Moving on, even though you only did 2 of the 3 rounds, plus of the WSX, of course, I don't want that sort of one moment, as glorious as it was, to overshadow what I think was some pretty impressive Supercross races this year from you. But just quick, before we chat about your Supercross season or the rest of it, can I just ask, how come you decided to sit out the Pro MX Championship this year?
I was just at a stage in my career where, I got the opportunity last year to step up to the 450 for Supercross, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and it just hasn't really worked out that way. With the offers that I've had, it's always made more sense financially for me to stay 250, and now in hindsight, I wish I had just taken 450 deals and not worried about money back then, because I think maybe my career would have played out different. But I just got to the point, man, where I was just a bit done with motocross, and I got an offer to go work for Alex Gobert there at Foremost Media, which, runs the Moto Online website and stuff. So before I even started Supercross last year, like as a rookie in the 450 class, I knew what my future was. I knew I was going to do that job. And then, I just, it was a great opportunity for me to stay in the industry that I love and do something that I'm passionate about. I've always taken a fair bit of pride in how my socials look and things like that. And it was just a good opportunity for me to, learn a new skill and do some stuff that, like I said, I just passionate about, like still riding dirt bikes and testing bikes for the website and things like that. So, I guess to shorten that answer, it would be A, that job opportunity, and B, just, not exactly having the love to go around and race motocross. Yeah. Again, it's a really, really tough grind. It's a really tough sport here in Australia, and we don't exactly go to the greatest tracks, and just, that excitement, I lost that excitement a little bit.
Yep. No, fair enough. Did that mean you get to spend a bit more time preparing for the lead up of Supercross this year?
You would think so. Like I had, so when I took the job with Moto Online, there was an offer there for me to come back to Supercross, and I'd already teed up my deal to race for Husqvarna. And then just with how busy we were with work and a few things that came up with me being able to travel overseas, I actually didn't get on a bike until I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks out from the opener of Adelaide.
Yep.
And so I didn't touch a bike really all year. I went and did those reviews overseas, borrowed a bike once, and went and rode out with some mates at a local track. And then other than that, I didn't ride properly until I got a bike to race Supercross, which, like I said, I'm going to say it was a month out from the opener.
Yep.
So, no, to shorten it again, no, I didn't have great preparation at all. It didn't really give me the chance to focus on that at all.
No, it's all good. I love the long answers. You had a crash before round 1 of the Aussie Supercross, which unfortunately meant you had to miss out on racing Adelaide. What happened there, and was it an injury that you had previously?
Yeah, so it was just a broken collarbone, and I knocked my head as well. Unfortunately, I was a little bit in limbo because I was coming back and I'd been off the bike for so long. The decision for me to go in and get surgery, I probably messed around with too much. I should have just, like, honestly, if I had gone in and got it straight away, I probably would have lined up, just with how quickly you can do that on those things, and maybe just get out and get a couple of points. But I didn't. I messed around with it a little bit, and I got hurt on I think it was a Saturday, and then didn't get surgery until the Wednesday or something like that. So, yeah, at that point, I was only a matter of days out from the opener, and just wasn't able to get out there. But yeah, just broke a collarbone, and I've done that. You know, I believe from what I've added up, I think it was my 9th broken collarbone, so fourth on that side, and first time I'd had an op on that side. I've had 2 ops on the other side, so
you've
I
got
know.
It plated this time?
Yeah, I got it all plated up. Yeah, and I just with having 2 surgeries on the other side, I'm kind of aware of how the situation goes, and I've had surgery on my right side and raced 8 days after, once for the opener at Wonthaggi in 2021. So
yeah,
very familiar with that situation, unfortunately.
So did you get to get to Adelaide, or did you watch it on TV?
Yeah, I still had everything booked, man. So I couldn't get any money back. So me and my fiance, we just went down there and watched, and just wanted to kind of immerse myself in the situation and see what it was like to be back racing, and just enjoy it as a fan also. But I went down there, but yeah, unfortunately, no, didn't have a bike.
Yeah, it was obviously very different to rounds 2 and 3. What were your thoughts about the stadium and the track?
The Adelaide opener?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, man, to be honest with you, it's obviously copped a lot of criticism, and it's hard to say, seeing as though I didn't spin a single lap through there. But man, I think I have a different opinion to other people. The harder you make these tracks, the harder it is to get close to guys like Dean and Justin and even Josh. So I was a fan of it, man. It made the racing really tight. Obviously Mossy's world class, but with the way he rode, he was, in my opinion, he was the best rider on the night. He just, a few little racecraft issues probably held him back from getting the win. But watching it as a fan and, kind of breaking it down a little bit, I actually thought he was a little bit better than Dean.
Yes, yeah.
And, you make these tracks more technical, then, you got to be realistic with yourself with how much Supercross these guys do and how much they've done over the years compared to us. It's just a really hard task to get close to them. So I thought they did a good job. The atmosphere was really good.
Yep.
The whole pit setup was awesome, and they're trying to grow the sport for us. And I just hate seeing people just go at them. You know what I mean? If they had gone there and pulled off a spectacular round and track and everything, everyone would have a different opinion. But these guys are, they're trying their hardest, and I'm guessing they would have learned their lesson from that, and we won't see the same mistakes we saw there from the promoters. So
yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, I spoke to Mick about it. I was there. I absolutely loved it. It reminded me, I'm a little bit older than you guys. It reminded me of the Supercross Masters back in the day, and I just thought the atmosphere was awesome. The track, probably with a few minor tweaks, could have been even better. Yep. I thought the dirt was good. For
awesome.
me, it was still great Supercross racing, and like you said, it was close and pretty well contested. So yeah, I didn't have any complaints, and I think a lot of the complaints stemmed from the TV coverage or people that watched it on TV. The ones that were there, I don't think anyone left that stadium disappointed.
No, I was happy with it. I thought it was great racing all the way through, man. I'm friends with the Kingsford, so I hated seeing him get taken out in the last turn. But that SX3 racing was unreal. There was bar banging the whole race. It was awesome. And people go to those races pretty much purely to watch SX1 and SX2, but you could watch that SX3 race, being a fan of the sport, not knowing any of those young riders, and just watch it and think, "Oh, what a race!" So, I was a big fan of it, man. I love what that whole AME group are doing for us, and trying to push the sport. So, anything for me that criticism wise, I'll tell it straight to their face. I just don't see the point in jumping on socials and ragging on them, and it's usually the people on there that aren't racing or have a kid that doesn't race anymore or something like that, just going at them. So. Not a fan of how some people handle those situations.
No, I think social media is a bit of a curse sometimes.
Yeah.
Moving on to round 2 in Newcastle. First off, I love the takeoff on the Hot Wheels thing with your bike in the giant toy box. Whose idea was that?
No, I can't take credit for it. So everyone comes up to me and says how good of an idea it was and all this stuff. So that was the guys from Boom. We had some pretty cool ideas to do this stuff in the lead up to Adelaide, which obviously got knocked on the head when I got hurt. And then same thing, even going into Newcastle. I knew that time-wise I would be okay to race, but it was just more like, what if something goes wrong and I can't? So we kind of were in limbo a little bit there before Newcastle. And then when I decided to race, that was all really last minute what they put together. And, you know, what an unreal job they did. The guys from Boom, they came up with all that, man. And I really appreciate what they did for me then. Like, that's coming into a race and, you know, you're behind the 8 ball 100%, like everything that they did for me in terms of, you know, getting my name out there and drawing a crowd to my pit and, you know, just having that cool atmosphere in the pit area, which I think, you know, we lack a little bit. I thought it was awesome, hey?
Yeah. Well, the Aussie Supercross website lists you as a privateer, and you obviously missed out on the top privateer award, even though you finished in front of Joel Whiteman. Tell me a little bit more about the team, and why sort of didn't they consider you to be a privateer?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a grey area. Initially, they wanted to class me as one, but I had to be honest with them, man. Like, so I get some really good support from Husqvarna. So while it looks like a privateer effort, like it still is somewhat, for sure. Like we drove to the races and things like that. It wasn't like I was flying and jet setting and living the dream. Like there was a lot of work behind the scenes, as all privateers do. I guess just my pockets didn't feel it as much as, you know, someone like Joel Whiteman. You know, like Husky give me a bike and there's a bit of financial help there and, you know, financial help with travel and things like that. So like I said that to him, I didn't want to take away from the guys that were true privateers. So like I had a phone call with Mick about it. Actually, sorry, it was more of an email thread, but like we chatted about it and I was honest with him, and yeah, that was the reason. I think more not so much the help with getting, you know, machinery in terms of getting bikes and parts. It was more the financial help that they were giving me that kind of ruled me out of being a true privateer.
Yep. And you know, as we know, a lot of these guys are actually paying to get to the races. They're not sort of walking away with money in their pockets. So
no, for sure. Like guys like Joel Whiteman, man, they're true privateers. Like he does you know, his dad's a suspension tech, and obviously Joel's learned how to do all that stuff over the years. So, you know, Joel, they didn't get any financial help from a manufacturer at all, and Joel was, you know, setting his own suspension up and stuff. So to me, that's, you know, that's the true meaning of a privateer. Goes to work and does all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, you know, still somewhat of a privateer. Definitely not a factory team whatsoever, but just not the true definition, I don't think.
Yeah. From memory, you sort of smashed it at Newcastle last year as well, didn't you? Because you did really well this year. That was amazing effort. I think 5th overall on the night. Yeah.
So yeah, last year, good vibes there for sure. Got my first podium. Got a little bit of luck on my side at the end there. I can't remember what it was. Justin Brayton got a flat or something in the last main, and it worked out that I was P2 on the in the overall behind Mossy, which, you know, I don't know if you know, but a lot of people know around the pits, like me and Mossy, that's like my big brother. So it was really, really exciting to, you know, I think we spoke about it. I can't remember what year it was. It was either 09 or 10 that Mossy won there, and he had, you know, tickets and stuff for me and my whole family to go, and we watched him win on a Suzuki there. And then, you know, all these years later to stand on the podium was really, really special. So there was definitely good vibes heading into Newcastle again this year. And and I think that's what got me through, man, to be honest with you, because there wasn't any real bike time to speak of or anything. It was just, you know, what I know I'm capable of on a Supercross track, and then just trying to play it smart. So got through it as best I could, and, you know, same thing, got a little bit lucky. Brayton and Webster went down in that last one and ended up 4th overall, but at no point in that night was I ever aiming for the podium. And now that I look back at it, if I had played a few scenarios a little bit different throughout the night, there was potential there to get on the podium. So it was crazy, but yeah, it was a really, really exciting round for me to, you know, kick off that relationship with Boom, and with our first race together. And you know, not my hometown, but a place where I've spent a lot of time over the years, like a lot of friends, family, and even fans there. So yeah, it was really cool. And in my eyes, it's 2 years in a row, it's proven to be probably the best Supercross rounds that we've almost ever seen in Australia. So it was a really exciting time for me.
Well, the track layout this year was a full-scale US-style track. What were your thoughts on the track and the atmosphere this year compared to last year?
Oh, man, the event itself, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Obviously, with what we had going on in the pits, drew a fair bit of attention. Like, we had the guys from Boom printing on my Wills 64 onto the back of people's own T-shirts. We were handing out merch. Like I said, heat pressing logos and name and number onto people's shirts. Like, it was really, really cool. So in terms of atmosphere and stuff, unreal. Like, I loved it. I wish I could go back and do those races every week. It's just Supercross in Australia is just so fun. I don't have any experience racing in the US to speak of, but like, to me, that is the way Newcastle is the pinnacle. Like, it's just such a good time as a rider. It's just such a fun event. And then, and the track, man, the layout was awesome. I just think the dirt was, what it was. I think we all thought the rain that we got on the Thursday was going to be a good thing for us. But in hindsight, I think all it did was pack the dirt down even more, because it was so hard pack and slippery. But I mean, they're trying their best, and I can appreciate that. So there's no real criticism on my side, man. It's the dirt, and everyone's got to race it. But that's it. And the layout was super cool. Yeah, it was a really cool event.
Yeah, and given the amount of rain that they had, because it was a metric shit ton, it could have definitely been a lot different. Oh,
Thursday was insane, man. When I was driving past, I was almost thinking that's enough to ruin the event for us. Like, as I was kind of driving past the stadium on the Thursday, because we had press stuff on Friday, so I was up there Thursday Arvo, and it was like next level torrential rain. Hey, it was like that kind of rain where people forget how to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I get way too much of that down here in Melbourne, for sure.
Yeah, you would down there.
Speaking of Melbourne, obviously the final round, we went to Marvel Stadium on the Friday night for the last round of the Australian Championship. You did pretty well here last year as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so that was my first ever 450 Supercross, and
that was the opener last year. Yep.
Yeah, and it went pretty well for me. Yeah, I got I think third in the heat race behind Cloudy and Mossy, or Mossy and Cloudy, something like that, and yeah, just made my way through the main. I think we ended up P6. Riding wasn't real good, but it was just a good way to get my feet wet. And then same for this year, man. Like, I spoke to you earlier before we started recording. I got after Newcastle, like, with no real seat time. Like, Newcastle was like, I don't want to try and sound like, I did that off the couch, but like, I really did rock up to Newcastle with next to no riding under my belt. Like, that's the honest truth. And then I really wanted to lock in after Newcastle, after we got a solid result, and I was like, oh, okay, I can really do this. I knew that 20 laps was going to be a hard task, so my aim was to really try and make the most of that next 2 weeks. I wanted to put in like a really solid week and a half before I started to taper off before Melbourne. And unfortunately, I got sick. Everyone was sick that come home from the World Supercross at Abu Dhabi, and yeah, I fell sick with it. So I only ended up really getting, I think it was like one solid day, and then another day of just dicking around doing starts and some sections and stuff like that at Ryder Kingsford's. But yeah, I went into Melbourne, and honestly, I was really stressed out about doing 20 laps. I knew deep down that I didn't have it. Like, I just didn't have 20 laps under my belt. But yeah, just played it smart, got through the heat race, same thing. For some reason, Brayton seems to have a lot of issues when I'm on the track, and he picked up a tough block in the heat race, and I rolled through for P2 and had a really good gate pick, got a good start, rode a solid first couple of laps, and made a mistake, and it really blew me up. I was riding good. I was in there behind Brayton. I was actually surprisingly riding really well behind him. I was at the point where I was like kind of waiting for him to pull away from me, and I wasn't. Like, in some sections I was closing back in, and I had Hill and Dean Wilson behind me, and yeah, one little mistake let them both through, and it was enough for me to like really, the panic almost set in. I was like, oh shit, and I just rode really tight, and then I tried to just settle in from there. I tried to ride to like a certain percentage that I knew if I had to, go hard on the last 5 laps, I was trying to save energy for that, and the cards just fell my way a little bit. And, Webster made a few little mistakes, and I was able to cruise at home for P5 in the 20 lapper and try and save some energy for World Supercross on Saturday.
Oh, it's definitely a really mental game, isn't it?
Oh, it's massively mental, man. Like, I was pretty stressed out about, like I said, doing 20 laps, and got lucky in a few ways, but really just had to play it smart. Like my game plan for that 20 lapper was to come out of the gates and do 5, solid ones, and then try and settle in for 10, and then end with 5 solid laps again. That was my game plan, and I kind of stuck to it.
Yeah. My sort of thoughts on the Melbourne round, I thought that was probably the best Supercross track, certainly in my opinion anyway, that we've seen in Australia. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that. The track was awesome.
Yeah,
the track was awesome.
Yeah, the dirt was very similar to Adelaide, and obviously it was a long full-size track. It was technical, but flowy at the same time. Yeah, I thought made for some great racing. Well, you ended up P6 in the Aussie Championship. You've got to be pretty happy with that after just doing 2 of the 3 rounds, surely.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. After Newcastle, I had set myself a little goal of trying to get to P5.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there was a little mistake there from Webster late in the race, and he made a mistake. I still don't think that would have been the deciding factor. I think I needed Whiteman to be maybe 1 position back. Yeah. But I really wanted to get that P5 in the championship. That's just racer mentality. But at the end of the day, 5th, 6th, what does it matter really? You're talking minor places, but man, I was stoked. Like,
yeah, and there's only 2 or 3. Yeah, there's only 2 or 3 points in it, I think, between you and Whiteman at the end, anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was 3. So yeah, it was good. Obviously, hard to get back to that position in a 3-round series, but nevertheless, it was cool. It was really cool. Had a really cool reception from the team and things like that, because the guys from Boom have never really experienced Supercross in Australia, so I think they were kind of coming in blind. They weren't coming in knowing who they were backing really, and I was coming in not knowing who they were backing either. I'd had the whole year off the bike, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It was all a lot of unknown. So for it to turn out the way it did, and the pit setup and everything, it was just a really, really cool experience. It was a lot of fun.
No, awesome. Well, before I let you go, we'll just finally wrap up. We'll go full circle and just have a quick chat about the WSX.
Yep.
You got a wildcard entry for that on the Saturday night. What was the process for that, and how did that come about?
So they just approached me after Newcastle. I think obviously because I had a pretty decent showing, and then B would be our presence in the pits. I think they really liked that, and I think that they wanted us to be a part of it. So they linked us up with the Fox Racing set up on the concourse, and we were able to have that set up again. So I think it was a combination of me proving that I could still ride, and then obviously having a nice pit presence. So yeah, they approached me, and we got the ball rolling pretty quick after the Newcastle round, and one thing led to another, and I was on the gate with Ken Roxon. So.
That's just crazy. It's definitely a pinch yourself moment, I'm sure.
For sure, man, for sure.
Yeah. Well, the racing on the Friday night, as we've sort of already said, was excellent, but there were a few changes to the track on Saturday. Do you think they made for even better racing? Because as soon as the heat started, shit got pretty crazy really quick.
Yeah, for sure. I think they did a really good job changing it, actually. It's like they really paid attention on the Friday, and they made a few little changes. Like they put that berm in. So you go over the finish, turn left, and then turn right. They put a berm there, which I thought was really good. So it was much of a muchness, really, in going inside, roll double, or even double single, or going to the berm and going 3. So that just made another option and another passing opportunity, because the Friday night we were all just funneling to the inside and going roll double or double single. So that, and then obviously that next section across where they made it so that you're able to jump into the rhythm. Yeah, I think they did a really good job. And like I said, learnt from, there wasn't even, you're not learning from mistakes. They just made it, they just improved upon what they had on the Friday night. So I think it, like you said, there was, in the heat race, there was shit going left, right and centre. So I think they did a good job.
With the racing, like you got to line up with some of the best riders around the world. When you're on the gate and actually doing the race, is that in your mind at all?
For sure, man. At one point in that first main event, I made a pass on like, it was their first lap passes. So I'm not going to sit here and like say that I passed these guys straight up, but I was able to make my way past Justin Hill and Colt Nichols, and in those situations it was definitely like a pinch myself moment. It was like like I'm sharing a track with these guys, and like with how things go on the first lap, and they end up on the outside, and I snuck through and made a few little passes here and there. Like it was a really cool experience to be out there with those those kind of guys, and just sharing a track with them, man. Like we watched AMA Supercross since I was a toddler, 4 years old. I've been a fan of the sport since. So it was really, really cool to see, those guys that you watch on TV and hold to an extremely high standard, and then being out there and being amongst it was really, really cool. I wish I had a little bit more fitness because I was in there banging bars with them, but unfortunately wasn't able to, just keep that going to the end. I was just knackered, man. I was just knackered.
Yeah, I think there was over 30,000 people there on the Saturday night. Is that the biggest crowd you've ever raced in front of?
For sure. And then making that move on Friese in the heat race, I could hear every single one of them. I could barely hear my bike going down that next rhythm section. So, I mean, I've never really had that many. Well, definitely never had that many people cheer for me.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was probably the most eye-opening moment of my career. Was when that many people get behind you, like you can hear it, man. Like you're sitting on top of a 450 and in between those rhythms, revving the bike and things like that. And having a hard time hearing my bike there for a little bit. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
I can only imagine. I was down on the floor taking photos, and that roar was just like, it was insane. It was like energizing. So I can only imagine what it would have been like on the bike.
It was really surreal, man. And I got to throw this one in there. Obviously, Friese got me back, and I ended up coming last in the heat race. But I was rolling down the start straight and back in towards the tunnel, and I could hear them going wild. And I thought to myself, is that for me? And I literally, I didn't want to look up into the stands because I was trying to I was trying to pretend it wasn't about me.
Yep.
And I just glanced with my eyes, and everyone was on their feet cheering for me, and I was like, fuck, I think that's for me. I think that's for me. And I pulled up to my mechanic and gave him my bike, and the first thing I said to him was, I said, "Are they cheering for me?" And he's like, "Yep."
Yeah.
It was really odd situation. Like, I don't know how many times anyone's ever gotten last in their career and gotten a standing ovation from 25, 30,000 people. But it was super cool, man. It was really cool to have the Aussie fans behind me, and yeah, it was just awesome, man. It was a really, really fun weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that photo I got that I posted straight after that heat, I got that up as quick as I could. I think that had 14,000 engagements so for me, that was that was
should have had more. Yeah. Should have had more.
That was just massive. So one last question before I let you go. I read somewhere a while back that you had a goal to get over to the US at some point. Is that still on the cards?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I would love to, for sure. I would love to, but yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. For sure, I would love to, but we'll see. We'll see how these next kind of few weeks go. I'm in the middle of trying to do a deal to go race Dortmund Supercross in Germany. So
awesome,
I want to get over and get a little bit of overseas experience and make the most of these opportunities. I've had offers to do these things for quite a while now, and with team deals that I've had or other commitments, I've just never committed to doing it. And this time I think I'm gonna. I really want to go and see the world, and they pay for everything. They lay it on for you. I get to go overseas and race against basically all these WSX guys. Bar the Americans.
Yeah,
it's just a really cool opportunity. So I guess I'll go and try and get my feet wet with that and see how I go overseas with the jet lag and things like that. And you never know. If you had asked me 3-4 weeks ago if I was going to race against Roxon at Melbourne Supercross, I would have said no way. So you just really never know, man. Yeah. You really don't.
Well, as an extension of that, then, if an opportunity came up to race the WSX, would you take that?
I think so. Yeah, I think I would. I would. I really, at this time last year, I had a few offers to do it, and I'd committed to this job, and I was really interested in getting into that. And I still really do love it, but I just love Supercross more.
Yeah.
I've raced bikes my whole life, man. It's all that I really, really know, and I've got really, really good support from my family. They back me 100%, and I guess I'm lucky in that regard. So I would love to go and do it. Like I said, I really do love the sport and love riding dirt bikes. So
how old are you, if I can ask?
27 now. Well, I'm about to be 28, so it's crazy. It's gone in a flash. I feel like I was turned 18. 3 months ago, but now I'm 28, nearly 28.
You've still got plenty of good racing years ahead of you, though. I think if you want them, it's
for sure, and especially with how it's panning out now, and dudes are doing this Supercross only thing. I think there is I think there is a bit of time left. So yeah, like I said, I really do love it and would love the opportunity to travel the world and race a dirt bike. And if I did get it, I'd welcome it with both arms and give it my all.
Oh, awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time tonight, and I think this has probably been the funnest interview I've ever done. So I'd love to have you on again sometime. That was that was a lot of fun.
No, I appreciate it, man, and thanks for having me on. And I love what you're doing for the sport. So keep it going, and we'll hopefully catch up down the track.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dylan.
Appreciate it, mate.
And that just about winds up episode 18 of the Mental for Moto podcast. The small break from recording has resulted in us lining up a bunch of great guests to roll out over the next few months. So we will be pumping out episodes from now well into 2024. So make sure you turn on your notifications for Mental for Moto on your favourite podcast players so you don't miss one. Thanks again to my guests for this episode, Mick Sinclair and Dylan Wills. And of course to all our amazing promotional partners, Death Grip Products, SPMX Suspension and Engine Performance, Shred Bike Care, Graphics by Aqua, Works Racing, and Wolf Building Compliance. I've been your host, Pete Wolf, and this is the Mental for Moto podcast. Until next time, see ya.